What's a red flag when looking for a job? If the job description has about 20 items, of which one is sales, your job is going to be sales. If the job description has multiple items, then the majority of your duty is going to be the worst one of those items. A bit like occasional weekend means occasional weekend off. One summer I applied for a construction job. The interviewer told me I might sometimes need to work Saturdays. Fair enough, I thought to myself. Unexpected stuff can come up and require some extra work. It's fine. First day on site, the foreman told me I'll be working both Saturdays and Sundays with no days off indefinitely. My co-worker said this has been going on since Easter. It was August. Oh, and my daily schedule got extended by 2 hours the very next day. I lasted less than a month. Where is that even legal? I don't think there's anything in the law that says that you can't schedule an adult 7 days a week. I do believe there's laws about requiring a certain amount of unpaid break time, but that's it. It's illegal to schedule someone 7 days a week here in Illinois. I work in the roadway construction industry and I can tell you that, while it's not super common, union workers working 7 days a week happens a lot more often than you'd think. They are not scheduled, but it does happen. Even for my job as an engineer, I think I worked about 12 weekends, Saturday and Sundays last year due to unforeseen staff turnover. I'm an engineer in a union shop. The guys in the union will sometimes work 12 days in a row, 12 hours a day, depending on how busy we are. They also tend to complain non-stop if they are not getting those hours, because money. I manage the lab techs and right now they are getting about 1 shift each on the weekends for overtime right now. Similarly, other duties as needed can translate to sales. Happened to me in a job that I was doing digital marketing for. They wanted me to do sales related tasks as well. I said that's not my job. They pointed out that line in my job description and said I need to improve my attitude and do it or give them notice of my departure. I told them thanks, I'll be gone in 30 days and mentioned if they want sales to be done then hire someone for the role. That is not what I signed up for, nor want to do. They were surprised, and within a month after I left they hired a director of sales. They didn't have one previously. Super high turnover rate there too. The terrible part of not having defined roles and departments in a company is when one job overlaps, i.e. sales with customer service or marketing with sales. Then the managers usually expect you to meet your marks on one end while being able to do the other job just as well. You made a good choice. Hope you are doing much better now. Earning potential is stressed over current salary. In 5 years you can be making X. Cool. Add that to my offer as guaranteed and we have a deal. Well, it's not guaranteed. Oh, gotcha. So what you're saying is that statement holds no value. You know, while you're working here, there's an opportunity to work hundreds of millions of dollars if you play the lottery. Lol. Similar thing I experience is, I wanted 1.2x and they were at X for salary. But with X you'll have room to grow. I'd rather get paid a fair market wage and be stagnant than underpaid with some arbitrary growth potential. They're gonna pay you less, so you can grow to that 1.2x that you should been making from the start. What a joke. I applied to a place where they were offering me 30% less than what I was currently making. They said that's because you'll be making that up in your performance bonus plus more. Hard pass from me on that one, such a slap in the face of an offer. Master's degree preferred for an entry level job. Starting salary 30k 40k. That's generous compared to the listings I've seen. Normally they go like this: R&D chemical engineer needed. Must have at least 5 years experience in developing industrial production processes. Master's degree required. Part-time, 39 hours a week, pay 10.50 an hour. Must be hired through a temp agency, so we don't have to commit to you. That's the opposite of what I see. Every chemical E with a BS I came out of school with was making serious bank. I can't imagine a scenario where a chemical E is making 10.50. The chemical Eng I came out of school with are all fighting for crappy technician positions. They are all making more than 10.50, but at least a decade away from making bank. Location and market are not on their side. But the worst part is that they are getting what they ask for. I've been applying to so many master's degree preferred entry level jobs and always getting passed over for other people with a master's that have 10 plus years of experience and are perfectly willing to take entry level pay. Yeah, at my job we were hiring for an analyst level role, something that's maybe 3 to 5 years of experience. For some reason ours kept pushing through the resumes with 10 plus years of experience and master's degrees for us to interview. And I kept looking at it like, isn't this person way overqualified for this role? They were a manager before this, and we are interviewing them for an analyst level role, which sucked for the people who actually made more sense for the role, because they'd get passed over for someone who was extremely overqualified for an analyst position, but willing to be super underpaid for their experience, I guess. They ended up extending an offer to one guy who, in fact, had a master's and like over 15 years of experience, but then coronavirus happened and his offer got rescinded. 10 years experience required in an application that has only existed for 5. Requires 10 years experience using Office 2019 or similar. Making jokes about overtime and crunch time. Guaranteed it's going to be a nights and weekends are optional, but not actually optional, place. I went to an interview where the guy said we don't end the day until everyone is done, and sometimes that takes another hour on a busy day. Then my genius brain said, yeah, I don't want to work constant overtime. What was I thinking, expecting to go home when my contract says I go home? In reality maybe an hour overtime can easily turn into 2 hours overtime every day. Having to pretend this is normal is toxic AF. When I was a GM for Chipotle I would constantly work 12 plus hour days, salary. And one busy weekend I worked 15 hours on Friday and 15 on Saturday, and on Sunday I decided to go to the gas station and eat my donuts in my car and just listen to the radio for like 10 extra minutes to just kind of unwind. You better believe the area manager was there the next day with a write-up in hand, because I was 10 minutes late on Sunday. But when I asked what about the other 10 extra hours I put into my store the previous days, that's just part of the job description. That's fucking disgusting. Hope you're in a better spot now, friend. Yeah, I got into something decent, and then the whole world shit the bed. Currently waiting for everything to open back up like almost everyone else. Initially unpaid, but will result in full-time offer upon completion of ZIS. This will be an excellent chance to expand your portfolio and gain lots of exposure with leading global brands. Graphic designer here. My favorite response to this, you can die from exposure. Musician here. That is also my favorite response. Come play at my bar. Okay, how much you wanna pay me? Well, nothing, but you'll get good exposure. People die from exposure. You want me to play, I need cash money. That's why I busk instead. It ain't a living, but it pays the beer. I once told a bar manager that I usually play in the subway for booze money and that I could cut the middleman at this point. He looked at me and said, you're doing this backwards. You're supposed to be a musician that drinks, not an alcoholic that plays music. This shit had me thinking, not gonna lie. High staff turnover. There's a place near me that's always hiring high level tech folks, and I mean always. Just makes me think, meat grinder. Probably pays an absolute killing, but you're chained to your work laptop 24/7. Possibly, the place I work at now doesn't pay a killing, and does not chain you to a laptop. From the outside it seems like a regular job, but the entire company focuses on management to a fault. Highly qualified technical staff end up leaving because they have held back good solutions until they can convince a mammoth management chain to make the case for the solution to the client. Being extremely metric focused, they can show all green reports, but in actual practice most things should be yellow. I have been a consultant for 17 years. I have never worked at such a slow pace. At my last job I was trained for process improvement stuff. The one lesson that sticks out is that green graphs are useless. If a graph is green too long, you either have set the goals too low, or there is no problem anymore, and you are wasting your time with useless graphs. So much this. If all the graphs are green, then bonus me up and send me home till there's work to do. Oh wait, everything's green, but there's no money available this year, and we need that thing done yesterday? Yeah, I'm out. In a job interview I asked how long do people in this position stay. The manager danced around the question and didn't give me an exact answer. He just told me, I don't know. People come and go. They found other jobs and leave me hanging. That is sign of a place with high turnover. That answer made me take a hard pass on the job. A quick search on Glassdoor has saved me from more than one poor job experience. I didn't listen to the Glassdoor reviews for one place and lo and behold they weren't lying. That's what I get for dismissing them as a handful of whiners and thinking it's probably not that bad. If it's a large company it could easily be dismissed as one department or isolated incidences. Maybe I was just desperate to leave my current shitty job at the time. We work hard and play hard. It actually means all work and for sure no play. Translation: you will work 60+ hours a week and are expected to come to the company happy hour whether you drink or not. Also we all stay here too much then go get hammered because we hate our spouses and children and will do anything to avoid going home. We are like family here. I like my job for the most part, but whenever some refers to us as the company name family I cringe. This is not my family and I will not use that terminology. I do brand management, so whenever they drop that into something that they want me to send out or share I change it to company name team. As I've told my coworkers several times, whenever our boss tosses the family word around, I already have a family, and believe me, calling y'all that is not a compliment. See, I hate that. I don't expect to play hard at work at all, and if that's offset by working hard as a trade-off, it screams out as a place whose employees will have serious burnout. And at the end of the workday I don't want to play hard either. I just want to sit down and do what I want. Sometimes that means doing absolutely nothing. God yeah. Sorry Kevin, I don't want to spend time after the work week listening to your crappy jokes or terrible karaoke to enforce company fun evenings. I've found that if they truly expect you to play hard, they usually mean they want you to play hard after hours, for no pay, doing stuff you don't want to do. And if you choose not to play hard because you have a life outside of the office or you just don't like playing softball in the heat, humidity, and mosquito swarms of a Midwestern American August, you end up on that list of folks who won't get promoted. I had a job where they had an optional volunteer day in the middle of busy season, where the 8 hours you spent on the optional volunteer day needed to be made up on the weekend. If you skipped volunteer day you weren't getting promoted for sure. When the company tells you that you're going to volunteer, then it's a work assignment. It's even worse when the company uses all this volunteer work as a public relations tool to show the world just how awesome they are. I believe that if you want to volunteer with something in your community, by all means, volunteer. But when you go around making a big show out of volunteering so that people will know that you're doing it, any of the altruism that may have existed evaporates immediately. And when companies contact the local news to send out a camera crew to record and broadcast the activity, I can't help but wonder what they are trying to sugarcoat or hide. Our company has a volunteer/service day. We are expected to volunteer for up to 4 hours, but can take the whole day as paid time. There are absolutely people who abuse this policy by claiming the day, but not actually doing any service work, since it's based on the honor system, and there's no proof required. Many departments, including mine, will schedule a team activity. We all worked at the food bank last year, and our dept head took everyone out to lunch afterwards. Hiring lots of people on the same position. Everyone who calls gets a job. I had this once. Turned out it was commission only, door-to-door vacuum sales. I did that for a month. My breaking point was when I was told I couldn't carry any water with me in what is essentially desert climate in middle of summer. Was told to request a glass of water from random strangers. Same if I needed to use the bathroom. I wound up so parched I was risking real dehydration and the other salespeople had the nerve to drink all my water. Oh, and I sold a grand total of 3 vacuums. I actually has 5 sales, but I quit on a Friday, and by Monday they claimed my last 2 sales were cancelled, and I now owed them something like $150 for accessories. Convinced them to zero out my entire account and just close it. Eater, since I have a lot of replies asking which vacuum, it was Kirby. That can't be legal, specifically limiting somebody's access to water. It's illegal in my state not to let employees or anyone not have water. When they should talk previous employees, they're going to do it to you. Same goes for them insulting current employees behind their back. I saw that during my orientation. 2 supervisors were loudly talking about how useless an employee was after they got off the phone with him. Even if it's true, the fact that they don't care who hears them is a sign of a toxic work environment. Typical behavior of managers who like to deflect blame for their own mistakes onto employees. Basically a symptom of a terrible boss. My bosses do this. The smell of the last guy hadn't even left the building before they just started shitting all over him. Funny thing is, he was easily one of the best employees in the department and rose accordingly. They immediately started talking about how much he sucked and all that the second he left the group. Now, how do you think that makes those of us struggling to climb the ladder to even get noticed for non-payroll advancements feel? Yeah, I'm currently job hunting. The same principle as guys who say all my exes are crazy. Always ask them why the person you are replacing left the job. The way they answer this could be a red flag. I always ask how is performance measured and what's the next step / when will I hear back, and any other question that may have come up during the interview. But I like this question. I'm going to add it to my interview question list. Depending on the truthfulness of the answer, this could have saved me from a job a few years back. I have started asking what does success look like in this role, and what goals or issues was this role created to address. The second one is less common, but I do client services / sales support and sometimes having a full-time person for that is new to them. My favorite thing to ask is imagine you filled this role. It's now a year later, and the person you've hired has exceeded your expectations. What have they done to do so? What does that look like? Really makes them articulate exactly what they expect from you. I took a security guard job in college as a part-time gig. In the interview the owner said the guy I was replacing was just lazy. On my first day I asked one of my coworkers, and it turns out he was shot in the face while on duty. Too lazy to drive himself to the hospital, I guess. If the guy couldn't even keep bullets out of his own body, how can he be expected to keep people out of a building? A former coworker shared this tidbit with me years ago and it works wonders. Try to schedule your in-person interview as late in the afternoon as possible, relevant to your position. If you're expecting a 9 to 5 job, schedule your interview for 4 o'clock or 4:30. You probably discussed after hours work etc during the interview. When you are done, you should be able to look around. Are people still working? Is the parking lot empty? You can match up the evidence with what was claimed during the interview and from that, judge how realistic the entire job description is based on how they treated the after hours work. Just make sure there isn't a staggered schedule or multiple shifts. Most of my positions are listed from 8 to 430, but about half the office works 6 to 230 or 9 to 530. Then since most of my salary guys want to climb the ladder and appear busy, they stick around for 15-20 minutes to leave after their bosses. This doesn't work for all industries, and of course, you're sacrificing a key advantage by picking your time right, usually around noon 1 o'clock. You avoid workday burnout or the early morning forgettable hours of a job. You're much more memorable if the person interviewing you is already warmed up for the day, but not anticipating heading home. Job description. You will be in charge of the online marketing. Because of that, we expect that you will also be the web developer, photoshopper, community manager, coffee maker and dick sucker. That kind of crap will tell you if that business understands the role they are looking to fill, or are just expecting some kind of magical entity that will do everything online related by himself. Yeah, definitely this. Make sure you have a clearly defined job description, and not one that is vague enough to have a lot of tacked on bullshit. And even after, don't go blasting out you can also do this and that unless it's beneficial to you. Every job description I come across is like that. They want someone who will fill 5 different jobs for one salary. No thank you. I'm looking for a professional future, not a burnout. Other duties as assigned. Translation. You will be our bitch and have a kaleidoscope of changing / increased responsibilities with a paltry raise annually if you're lucky. Don't forget and you can't ever use your job description to not do a task you clearly are not fit for. My friend caught a company she was working for in a funny lie. She applied for a transfer / promotion and then withdrew her resume. The department supervisor offered to critique her resume for her and she said sure. He goes through it positively and then says one sticking point is that she kind of misrepresented her job title, calling herself junior account manager when she was an account specialist. She then watched him go quite red in the face when she explained that this is exactly the way the company advertises the account specialist position in their job ads. Any job that requires an upfront cost. This is a telltale sign that you are getting wrapped up into a MLM pyramid scheme. No, I will not pay for my uniform to work at your pizza place. Are you insane? Technically I paid for my uniform at the fast food place I worked at. They simply took it out of my paycheck. I turned down a second interview for a position in which the interviewer said something to the effect of if your boss emails you on a Friday night, you don't have to respond, but you know how that looks. Made it pretty clear that they expect work to be your first priority. It looks like I don't want that job lol.